Hello, good day. Welcome to the class on Sotah. Today we're on page 32 of the Omer, and we're beginning the 7th chapter of Sotah. And here we have a fascinating Mishnah which talks about Sotah, but about other things as well. And here it talks about related to what the woman has to say and what we talk to the woman. So the Mishnah says like this: there are certain things that even though the Torah tells us that we have to say it, that tells us what we have to say, and obviously in the Torah it's written in Hebrew, you don't have to say it in Hebrew. And it brings an example. The Parsha of Sotah, all of the part of Sotah where the Kohen talks to her, what she has to say, doesn't necessarily have to be said in Hebrew. Also Vidu Meiser, it says after the third year, when you are done the first 2 years, your Meiser Rishon you gave to the Levi, and Meiser Sheni, which you prepared not to take up to Israel. And then you have the third year, you have to give, instead of Meiser Sheni, you have to give to the poor person. So you come up to Eretz Yisrael and you say vidui that the last 3 years you did exactly what you had to do. So this vidui that you say, the artist HaKadosh Abai is that I had done, I've gotten rid of everything in the way the Torah told me, you can say it in any language. Shema, prayer, could be said in any language. Birch Samazah, grace after meals, could be said in any language. Testimony, meaning if you say testimony to be and to prove that you said the law, you don't have to say it in Hebrew. Even if you said the testimony in any language, you are becoming a both for related to witnesses, testimony related to an object. Now there are other things that specifically have to be said in Hebrew. That's bikurim. When you bring up bikurim, the first fruit to the base of Migash, you have to say it in Hebrew. The as well chalitza, which is when a woman doesn't want to get married to her husband's brother, her husband passed away, they have no children. She has to get married to the husband's brother. That has to be said in Hebrew. The blessings and the curses that were told to the Jews when they came into Israel was said in Hebrew. The blessing of the Kohanim, when they say the three Yivarecha, in Hebrew. The blessing of the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur that he did after he came out of the Holy of Holies, and then Yom Kippur in Hebrew. The king, when he reads to all the Jewish people the year of Hakil, has to be done in Hebrew. Egla Rufa, when there is a city where someone was found dead in a field and they're not sure which city he was closest to, and they measure because wherever city he was closest to, most probably they didn't feed him as he was poor. When all of that part has happened, they take it to the river and they kill an eagle, a calf. They take off its head and the blood flows. All that has to be said in Hebrew. Mishuach Machama, when the Kohen who prepares the people going to war and warns them they shouldn't be afraid, that has to be said in Hebrew. How do we know the Mishnah says that the Bikurim has to be read in Hebrew? Because it says, Vanisa Vamarta, you should pronounce and you should say before Hashem. And by the Levium it says, Va'amru, the same word you have to say. So just like by the Levium, when they said the blessings and the curses have to be in Hebrew, this has to be in Hebrew as well. Chalitza, how do we know that Chalitza, when the woman does the process of separating herself from her husband's brother when he left her childless, I don't know that has to be in Hebrew, because it says also, Va'ansa Va'amra, she has to repeat and she has to say, and we say, the Levites also says Va'anu, and they repeated. So just like there, it's in Hebrew, here also has to be in Hebrew. Or Rabbi Yehuda says, from another word, it says Va'ansa Va'amra, she has to say exactly this. This means it has to be said in Hebrew. How do we know the blessings and the curses of that were said to the Jewish people were in Hebrew? So he said, this is what happened. When the Jewish people crossed the Jordan, and it actually happened the day that they crossed, they came to the Mount Gerizim and Eval, it's in Shomron, right near the city of Shechem, which is near Elon Nimora. And what happened there is that the 6 of the tribes went up on Mount Gerizim, 6 went up on Mount Eval. Actually, I was there a few years ago. I took my family there. We went as deep in what they called the West Bank and the Samaria. Very dangerous to go. And there are some Jewish communities there, settlements there. We went up on top of one of the mountains of Gerizim, which they call today Mount Bracha. And it's fascinating to see how one mountain, the mountain where the blessings were set to, is green. The mountain where the curses were set to is like desert, and Shechem is right in the middle. That's where the Kohanim and the Levium stood. So the Kohanim and the Levium, so 6 of the tribes went up on the Mount Gerizim, 6 on Mount Eval. The Kohanim, the Levium, and the Ark was in the middle, which is now what city of Shechem. The Kohanim surrounded the Aron, the Ark, which had the tablets. The Levium surrounded the Kohanim, and all the Jewish people were on both mountains. and they turned, the Levium turned towards the Mount Gerizim, and they spoke the words of blessing. Blessed be the person who does this. And everyone, both 12 tribes from both mountains, said Amen. Then they turned toward the Mount Abel, and they said the curses towards there, and everyone answered Amen until they finished all the blessings and the curses. Then they brought stones, and they built an altar, and it's still there. You can see the remnant of it is there. And they covered it with plaster, and they wrote all of the Torah in 70 languages, Be'er. And then they took the stones, and they went to the place where they were staying in Gilgal, and that's where the stones are there till today. So these are the things that are said in Hebrew. So now the Gemara says, how do you know the Sotah can be said in any language? Because it says that the Kohen has to say to the woman, that the Kohen has to say, meaning in any language she understands. So we learned, the rabbis learned that he has to tell her in every language. What does he tell her? He has to tell her why she's drinking, because of the behavior that she had done. And what is she drinking? And what is she drinking? She's drinking in a cup that's embarrassing. It's a very cheap cup made of earthenware. And how does she become tamei? Because she behaved inappropriately with someone she wasn't supposed to. And how can someone become tamei? It has to be only if it was b'shoigig, by mistake, or b'mezid, or intentional. But if it was done ba'onis, it was done by force, or if it was done willingly, it's not good. If it was done intentionally, not good. If it was done by force or done by mistake, like she thought her husband died or something, then the water doesn't check her. So the Gemara says, why do you have to tell her all these laws if the water checks are good, if not? Because what happens if she walks away? She'll think, the water never really checks. And she won't realize the water didn't check her, because only if you're in a certain category where you did something willingly, you did it, or you did it intentionally, then it checks you. Otherwise, it doesn't check you. Meiser, that you have to say, Vidir Meiser, you have to say in any language. How do we know? Because it says, you say before Hashem, you say before Hashem, so it's like by Sotah it says you say, and here it says you say, so therefore, by both it can be in all languages. So why don't we learn, it says the word Amira by the Levites when they gave the blessing, the curses. But by the Levites it says, Vanisa Vamarta, and here it only says Amira. So you learn, when there's one word the same, you learn for the other one that it's one word the same, instead of a place that has two words, which only one is the same. Rav Shimon Yochai said, and Shimon Yochai is the day of this day coming up. So he said a person should generally say any types of praises quietly, his praises quietly, his own praises, and his own embarrassments he should say loudly. How do we know it? Because Meiser is you're thanking God for all, you're telling Hashem that you did what He asked you to do. So he's saying praise. We say it quietly. When we read Bikurim, we talk about where we came from, Lavan, and the origins of the Jewish people, and that we say loudly. So the Gemara says, really? You're supposed to say you're degrading things about yourself loudly? Didn't Rabbi Yochanan say in the name of Shema Yechai, how come we say Damida quietly? Because we don't want to embarrass those who do sins, because during the Midah we mention sins. And like we see in the temple, that the place where they brought the sin sacrifice offering was the same place where they slaughtered and they brought the burnt offering. Why? So no one should know who is bringing a sin offering, who isn't. So we want to cover up on people's embarrassments. How can you say that you're supposed to say embarrassment loud? So we say it doesn't mean embarrassment means you're in pain. Just like we find by a Metzora, which says, you have to call out that you want people to pray for him, that he should get healed. So we're talking about your pain, you should say out loud. This way people will pray for you and you will get healed. Now Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Shema Yechai, how can we say the prayer quietly? So not to embarrass those who sin, that's to say the midah quietly, because we see that in the Beis Hamikdash, the place we brought the sin offerings is the same place we brought the burnt offering. But the Gemara says, but there are differences. Like where do you sprinkle the blood? Because for a sin offering you sprinkle it in the top part of the altar, and for a burnt offering you sprinkle it in the bottom part of the altar. So Gemara says, listen, the only one who's there in the temple when they do it is the Kohen. It's not public knowledge. But there is another difference, that a sin offering could be brought as a female, and it's supposed to be brought as a female, and a burnt offering is a male, so you can see what kind of animal he's bringing to the temple. You know if he did a sin, or if he's bringing it as a burnt offering for a good reason. So the Gemara says that the tail of the animal covers up, so you don't see if it's a male or a female. So the Gemara says that's good by a sheep, which has a tail, but what about a goat that doesn't have a tail? When you bring a goat, then for the sin offering, you're allowed to bring a goat. So the Gemara says, you chose to bring a goat. You can bring a goat or a sheep. You should have brought a sheep. If you don't care, then the Torah is not going to protect you. Then the Gemara says, but the sin offering of someone who worshipped idols has to be a goat. And there you're going to be embarrassed. So the Gemara says, there you should be embarrassed. Because that will help you get a atonement, because you did such a terrible sin. Being embarrassed will help bring out the full teshuvah and atonement for you. How do we know that Shema could be said in any language? Because it says Shema, listen in any language that you can understand. The rabbis learn that Shema you have to read exactly the way it's written in Hebrew, and that's what Rebbe says. The Rabbi says in all languages, like we just said in our mission. Why does Rebbe say it has to be in Hebrew? Because it says v'hayu, it should be, these words should be. Should mean they should be exactly as they're written. The rabbis who argue with Rebbe, what do they do with that? So he says Shema. Shema means in all languages. So, but the rabbis, it says v'hayu. So he says v'hayu means read it the way it is. Don't read it backwards and in any other way other than it's written. How does Rebbe know you're not allowed to read it backwards? Because it says dvarim, hadvarim has to be in the words have to be the following the way it's written. What do the rabbis do with the words dvarim, hadvarim? So they don't learn anything from it. They say it's words. You should follow these words, or you don't learn anything special from it. But Rebbe, it says Shema, which with Chachamim, the rabbis say that from here we know you can read in every language. What does he do with the word Shema? So he says Shema means you have to listen to what you're saying. And the rabbis say that even if you don't listen, you just said the words, and you didn't pay attention, you also fulfilled the mitzvah of Shema. And this finishes off the page of today, and have a good day.